Welcome to Cash Ad. Are you ready for a deep dive into one of the most explosive financial showdowns in modern history? Imagine this. Beijing, in a bold and unprecedented move, dumps $1.7 trillion worth of U.S. Treasuries, a staggering sum that could send shockwaves through global markets. Why? Because U.S. banks are reportedly scaling back their operations in China, signaling a potential unraveling of decades of economic ties between the two superpowers. But here's the twist. What if this isn't just speculation? What if it's the beginning of a new era in global finance? Before we proceed, don't forget to hit Cash Ad subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends, because what you're about to learn will change how you view the future of the global economy. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Let's get started. The big picture. U.S. China economic tensions. To understand why Beijing might consider such an unthinkable move, we first need to zoom out and examine the broader context of U.S. China relations. For years, the United States and China have been locked in a delicate dance of cooperation and competition. Economically, they've been deeply intertwined, with China holding trillions of dollars in U.S. debt and American companies operating extensively within Chinese borders. However, recent geopolitical tensions, trade wars, and regulatory crackdowns have strained this relationship. U.S. banks, once eager to tap into China's massive market, are now reconsidering their presence. Regulatory hurdles, compliance risks, and escalating tensions have pushed some major players like J.P. Chase and Goldman Sachs to scale back their operations. While no bank has fully exited China yet, the trend is clear. Wall Street is growing wary of Beijing. But here's where things get interesting. If Beijing perceives these moves as hostile, or worse, as part of a coordinated effort by Washington, it may retaliate in ways that could reshape the global financial system. And dumping $1.7 trillion in treasuries would be nothing short of seismic. Breaking down the numbers. Is this even possible? Let's pause for a moment and ask the obvious question. Could Beijing really dump $1.7 trillion in U.S. treasuries? The answer lies somewhere between highly unlikely and catastrophic. Here's why. 1. China's current treasury holdings. As of early 2024, China held approximately $761 billion in U.S. treasuries, not even close to $1.7 trillion. Japan, currently the largest foreign holder of U.S. debt, holds around $1.8 trillion. So, for Beijing to liquidate $1.7 trillion in treasuries, it would require not only selling all of its current holdings but also acquiring additional assets from other countries or institutions, an incredibly complex and improbable scenario. 2. Economic self-harm. Selling off such a massive amount of treasuries would be akin to shooting itself in the foot. Here's why. Devaluing remaining assets. A sudden flood of treasuries on the market would drive down prices and increase yields, effectively devaluing China's remaining holdings. Currency instability. A fire sale of treasuries could destabilize the yuan, which Beijing has worked hard to stabilize amid domestic economic challenges. Global market chaos. Such a move would likely trigger panic in global markets, leading to widespread volatility and potentially harming China's own economy. 3. Geopolitical realities. While China has been gradually reducing its treasury holdings as part of a diversification strategy, including buying gold and investing in emerging markets, a dramatic $1.7 trillion dump would escalate tensions to unprecedented levels. It would signal an all-out economic war, something neither side truly wants. Why would Beijing consider such a move? Despite the impracticality of dumping $1.7 trillion in treasuries, let's explore the motivations behind such a hypothetical decision. Understanding Beijing's perspective sheds light on the underlying tensions driving this narrative. 4. Response to U.S. banks pulling out. If U.S. banks were to significantly reduce or entirely exit their operations in China, it would represent a major blow to Beijing's efforts to attract foreign investment. In retaliation, dumping treasuries could be seen as a way to punish the U.S. government and destabilize its economy. 5. Hedging against sanctions. With rising concerns over U.S. sanctions targeting Chinese entities, Beijing might view reducing its exposure to U.S. debt as a necessary precaution. By diversifying its reserves, China can mitigate the risk of having its assets frozen or devalued during geopolitical conflicts. 6. Promoting de-dollarization. China has long championed the idea of de-dollarizing the global economy, promoting alternatives like the yuan and digital currencies. A large-scale sell-off of treasuries could accelerate this process by undermining confidence in the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. What happens next? The ripple effects. Now let's imagine for a moment that Beijing does go ahead with this unthinkable move. What happens next? The consequences would ripple across every corner of the global economy. 1. Skyrocketing interest rates. A $1.7 trillion sell-off would flood the bond market with supply, driving up yields and making borrowing more expensive for governments, businesses, and consumers worldwide. This could stifle economic growth and exacerbate inflationary pressures. 2. Dollar weakness and yuan strength. The sudden influx of dollars into the market would weaken the greenback while strengthening the yuan, a double-edged sword for China. While a stronger yuan boosts purchasing power, it also makes Chinese exports less competitive globally. 3. Stock market turmoil. Equity markets would likely plunge as investors flee to safer assets. Volatility would spike, wiping out trillions in wealth and eroding consumer confidence. 4. Global recession risks. The combined effects of higher interest rates, currency instability, and stock market declines could push the global economy into recession. Developing nations, already vulnerable to external shocks, would bear the brunt of the fallout. Separating fact from fiction. At this point, you might be wondering, is any of this real, or is it pure speculation? Let's separate the facts from the fiction. 1. Verified data. China has indeed been reducing its treasury holdings, selling $53.3 billion in Q1 2024 alone. Its current holdings stand at $761 billion, far below the $1.7 trillion figure circulating online. U.S. banks have scaled back operations in China due to regulatory hurdles and geopolitical risks, but none have fully exited. 2. Speculation versus reality. Claims of a $1.7 trillion dump lack credible evidence and seem exaggerated. Similarly, reports of a complete U.S. banking exodus from China oversimplify a nuanced situation. Always rely on primary sources, such as U.S. Treasury reports, for accurate data. Your role in shaping the future. As viewers, you play a crucial role in navigating this complex landscape. By staying informed and critically evaluating information, you help combat misinformation and promote rational discourse. So, I urge you to dig deeper, ask questions, and engage in constructive conversations about the future of the global economy. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. What topics would you like us to cover next? Maybe you're curious about China's gold-buying spree, the rise of digital currencies, or the future of U.S. China relations. Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and don't forget to check out our related videos for more insights into the ever-evolving world of finance. Final thoughts. While the idea of Beijing dumping $1.7 trillion in treasuries captures the imagination, it remains more fiction than fact. That said, the underlying tensions between the US and China are very real, and they underscore the fragility of our interconnected global economy. As events unfold, one thing is certain: the decisions made today will shape the world of tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of geopolitics and finance. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who might find it valuable. Together, let's stay informed and prepared for whatever the future holds. Until next time, this is Cash Ad. Here signing off. Stay curious, stay critical, and most importantly, stay revolutionary.